Okay, so this is our tutorial for our Year 9 media organizer. We're going to draw one part of our media organizer, so in this case the vertical panel, and then we're going to, once we've designed it all in Fusion, we're then going to export that as a projected sketch, as a DXF file, and then we're going to import that into our laser cutter so that we can engrave all those markings onto our piece of wood and then cut it out by hand and drill it by hand. So to start with, we're going to, first of all, save our project. So I'm going to click Save. I'm going to call it Year 9 Media Organizer Vertical Panel. And I'm going to save that into my folder, which I've already set this up, Year 9 Organizer. Save it into that folder, click Save. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a new component. So if I go to this button here, I'm going to create new component. This one's going to be called Vertical Panel. Hit OK. Okay, so my vertical panel, I'm going to start to design this by creating a sketch. And because it's a vertical one rather than a horizontal one, I want to draw on this vertical plane. So I'm going to select this one. Yours will probably snap to this view. Okay, if you want to get it back to my view, just click the home button. And then we're going to draw ourselves a rectangle. So I'm going to choose rectangle. I'm going to go with a center rectangle. So I'm going to click the origin, 0, 0. And then for my sizing, I'm going to have a length of, in this case, 200 millimeters. And then I'm going to make the width of it 150 millimeters. So the overall length of the piece of wood that you'll have will be 300 millimeters, but because only part of my piece of wood is going to be used for the vertical panel, I'm going to make it 200 millimeters. The horizontal part will be 100 millimeters. Okay, so I've made my sketch. I can now click Stop Sketch. And now I'm going to extrude, so I'm going to press pull this sketch by 10 millimeters. Okay, so I'm creating a new body, 10 millimeters wide, so now it has some thickness. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some extra features. So I want to add a cut section in here so that I can maybe hang something on it. So for that, again, I'm going to need to create a sketch. This time I'm going to create the sketch on the face, this front face of my design. And then I'm going to draw another rectangle. And so center rectangle. In this case, actually, you might want to use a different type. You might want to use the 2-point rectangle. So I'll click 2-point rectangle. I'm actually going to choose the front view here to see it a bit easier. I'll zoom in a bit. I'm going to set it starting on this snap point on the edge, so it'll lock to this edge. I want to make it, say, 50 millimeters wide. Sorry. So 50 millimeters. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's going crazy. Okay, 5 millimeters for the depth of it. And then if I click Tab on my keyboard, I can flick to the other dimension, and I want this one to be 50 millimeters. And then hit Enter or Return. Then my last thing I might want to do is arrange where the sketch is going to go height-wise. So for that, I'm going to go to Sketch, Sketch Dimension. I'm going to choose the top line of that sketch and then the top line of my body. And I'm going to set this at 20 millimeters. So it's going to be 20 millimeters down from the top. You can see it automatically adjusts. And because I automatically used my snap point at the beginning, I don't need to adjust where on the page this goes. So I'm happy with that. Click Stop Sketch. Now I'm going to go to Modify, and I'm going to select this section. You might want to use the home view for this. And then we're going to make this, we want to cut this out. So at the minute, it's trying to create a new body. We actually want to do a cut. So I'm going to change it to cut. And our distance needs to be 10 millimeters. Okay, If it doesn't work, the reason for that is because for cutting, you need to put minus. So it's minus 10 millimeters. And now you can see that that's worked. So hit OK, and it's cut that out. The next thing I might want to add in is let's put in a dowel or an aluminium rod so that I can hang my keys on it. So for that, again, I need to create a sketch on this front face. So click that front face. And this time I'm going to make a point. So it's a sketch point. And again, I might want to turn so that I can view it dead on. And I'm going to set my point, let's say here. So I've drawn my point. Again, I might want to say where exactly I want that. So I'm going to use my sketch dimension. That point to this edge. Yeah, I'm happy with 30. Happy with that. And then another sketch dimension between this point and the top edge. 50. Let's make it 60. Okay, then I can click Stop Sketch. Go back to my home view. And this time I want to make a hole. So I'm going to go to Create Hole. So for this, I'm going to select my point that I've just made. Okay, and you'll see it'll give you a preview of a hole. You just need to set that to whatever sizes that you want. So this dimension, check first of all that these are correct. So we want a simple hole. We want it to be, again, simple for the hole tap type because we're not screwing anything into it. We could do this if you wanted to. That basically creates a slightly smaller hole, and then you can create a screw thread on that. I'm just going to go for a simple hole. And the drill point, we're going to go for an angle because that is what our normal drill bit would have. For the height, the depth that I want to drill, I don't want to drill the whole way through, which would be 10 millimeters. So I'm going to go for, yeah, I think 8 millimeters is probably sensible. Actually, let's put 6. And then you don't need to change that one. For the width, I'm going to put this as a 6 millimeter hole. And then I'm ready to hit OK. So now I've got a 6 millimeter diameter hole that goes in 6 millimeters. The last thing I might maybe want to do is I want to add in some rounded corners. So I'm going to go to Modify, Fillet. I'm going to select these top two edges, and I want to put a fillet of, say, 5 millimeters. So you can see that it rounds it over. Hit OK. And then the final thing I might want to do is, because I want this to merge with a horizontal piece going this way so that it stands up, I'm going to need to cut halfway into my piece of wood and create a slot for the other piece to slot into. So for that, I'm going to create another sketch, again on this front face. I'm going to need a rectangle, 2-point rectangle. Again, I go back to this front view, and I'm going to create it. So let's snap onto here. And this needs to go exactly halfway. So halfway of 150 is 75. Oh, sorry, wrong dimension. That one needs to be, this one needs to be 10 millimeters for it to be an exact fit. We'll actually make it very slightly larger than that when we cut it out, but for the purposes of this, we'll go with 10 millimeters for a perfect fit. And the length, I said 75. Hit enter. Stop sketch. And then the final thing is I want to cut that section out. So select it, back to my home view. And again, we mentioned before, we're going to cut. And we're going to have -10. -10. Like so. So that is my vertical piece pretty much all finished. So I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to inside my component, and go inside my sketches. Okay, and at the minute you'll see all the sketches are turned off. So what we want to do now is we want to project all the operations that we've done. So all this circle, this cutout mark, and my rounded edges. I want to project that all as one sketch that I can export to the laser cutter. So to do that, I'm going to go to Sketch, Project, and Project. Choose that one. I then need to select which sort of plane I'm going to put this on. So I'm going to choose this one. Again, the vertical one. And then this time, the only thing you need to change now is change from this one to bodies. So we want to select the geometry as our body. So as long as you've got that one highlighted, and now you click here, okay, that should, or you can do it this way, pick your body that way. Hit OK, and you'll notice it'll have created a new sketch down here. So in this case, it's called Sketch 5. So I could turn off my body, and I can see the sketch that's been left. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is click Stop Sketch. I'm going to right-click on that sketch in the menu, and I'm going to click Save as DXF. Okay, this will bring this up. I can now save this as vertical panel. In fact, I'll save it as my name. So Mr. Parker, so you'll save it as your name. Dash year 9. I'd probably suggest your class, so let's say 9 Tech 101. Dash vertical. Okay, that's just to help when we get it on the laser cutter to know whose is whose. And then I'm going to click Save. And that will save it as a DXF file. Now if I go to Illustrator, I go to File, Open. I find that file that I've just made, so this one. Click Open. And you need to make sure that it's set on original size. Okay, that means it'll come in with the correct dimensions. And also make sure it's in millimeters. Hit OK. Okay, and you'll see that your sketches all come in. The only thing is your page size, the white bit, isn't quite the right size. So you need to adjust that. So for that, if we go to Document Setup, Edit Artboards, we can actually change the size of this. So up at the top here, width and height. So we want our width to be 150 and our height to be, we actually want our height to be 300 in this case. So the reason for that, 300 millimeters, is if you remember I said there's two parts to my design. There's the vertical panel and also a horizontal panel. Both pieces need to fit onto my one piece of wood. Okay, so imagine the white piece here is my whole piece of wood. This is my vertical part, which I'm just going to highlight with using the arrow tool. And I'm going to drag this up until it touches that top. Just double check that that's all perfect. And then I would also import my horizontal panel and I would slot it in to this section here so that both my pieces are on my one piece of wood. Once you've done that, you're then ready to set the line colors and line thicknesses for engraving on the laser. So to do that, on this piece here, so the outline, or stroke as it's known, if you double click, and you need to set blue, so this is red, green, blue, you need to set blue to 255, red and green need to be 0, hit OK, and that will change the line color to the blue that the laser understands for engraving. And the final thing is to change the stroke width to 0.01 point, so that's 0.01 pt. Hit enter, and then if you click off and you look in here, it'll be a very, very thin line, the color blue. And now we're ready to save that as an AI file. So it's now an AI file. Click Save. And that is what you will put into the Dropbox folder, the Google Drive shared folder for Alan the technician's laser cut. So just at the end I hit OK. And then Alan will have access to that folder, he'll be able to engrave it on the laser, and after that you're ready to start cutting out. That's the end of this tutorial.